just have more Sedge Beswicks in the world, please?
Thank you.
So I just want to know really your own journey, Sedge, really. Where did it all begin? Your business journey?
Yeah. So I'd been employed since I was 15, not obviously full time, but I was always working and grafting and making money and being able to understand that I could do things because I had a little bit of cash in my hand, which probably was the case then. Physical cash versus now you can't get cash for love nor money. But I started at ASOS. I was the first person in the social media team there, and was probably almost like a little real life MBA just at ASOS because I was
Right.
young. The business was very much still in startup phase, and I scaled the team to 32, operated 8 markets, got a D in my French GCSE, but all of a sudden was running like France, Germany, Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You just had to graft and give it a go and see what worked and see what didn't work. And then I got to a point where I'd been at ASOS for 5 years. It was, I obviously can't speak for now, but it was a really full on place to work. There's a lot of
Okay.
hours that went into being there, a lot of fun, a lot of time in the
Mhm.
pub because I had no responsibilities then. But it got to this kind of point when I was like 26 and I was like, cool, I'm ready for like the next thing and the next challenge. And actually for me, I was very much of the view, you take your paycheck, you know what you get your
Yeah.
2 to 3% increase each year. And that's kind of the job. And I was very accidentally met a guy that then went on to be essentially my investor. And I was interviewing at Instagram for this head of talent role, interview number 17 of 20. And at the same time met this guy in Soho House. And I kind of said in this interview, I was like, God, I had this really weird conversation last night with this guy about setting up my own business. And he kept saying things like I was really passionate and I really understood my space. And she was like, yeah, go and do it. And actually, Instagram became one of our first clients when I ran
Right.
the business. But I felt like I always had a fallback plan, which was if this business doesn't work and going out alone isn't the right thing for me, I feel like Instagram would hire me anyway, because if they like me enough to give me this project. But it probably was a really good mindset to go into, because I think often when we launch businesses or we start businesses, we think of all the things that could,
Yeah.
catastrophize, what could go wrong. What happens if I can't make the ends meet each week, each month? And all of a sudden I was like, well, that's okay because I've got plan B. And actually, obviously, I never needed to pull lever of plan B.
Do you think so? First of all, going back, because obviously it's really interesting because I'm really resonating with all of this. Do you think jumping before you're ready is a key thing? Because as
100%.
women, we go, no, I couldn't take that group role. When I got group where I am now, I'm like, oh no, that's way too big of a step. And it's like, no, just go, just jump, and you will make mistakes and you'll navigate and whatever, and things will happen, but go before you're ready. Would you agree with that?
Every time. Yeah. I think when you're hiring people, I always say hire the underdog. Go for the
Yeah.
person that on paper isn't quite right, because that is the person that will come in firing from all cylinders, proving themselves. And the
Yeah.
same respect when you're thinking, I'm probably not quite ready for this job, and you're looking at the job description. And again, as women, we look at that job description and we go, oh, well, I can't do that. A job
Oh,
description is kind of step one. That becomes moldable based on the person that ends up in the job. But again, as women, we're not putting ourselves forward. We're telling ourselves we can't before we've even given things a
yeah.
go. And the same goes for business is, we can think of all the reasons why it won't work, but we don't really stop and go, these are the reasons why it might work. And so with everyone, sorry, yeah, that's exactly it. Is like
Yeah.
underdog, back yourself because no one else will.
And everything will be okay. And what I always try and say to myself, Sedge, is it's not a mistake, it's a learning. Whatever happens, nothing, it's always a learning, and just apply that going forward. So, I mean, would you ever consider yourself, obviously you've been doing this a long time now, but you could never think going back to employment, that's just not for you. That's just done, like, ever.
I'd never say never, because so I worked at Red Bull, I worked at Three, I worked at ASOS, and I loved those businesses. And so for me, like, I always used to joke to my mates, like, oh, you'd think I came up with the concept of Red Bull. And like, because
Yeah.
I loved the ethos. I love what the brand stood for. Again, I was like, whatever I was, 18 to 21, I was there. So it's the perfect, most incredible job to have when you're that age. And same thing happened at ASOS. Like, I was very new into, like, social was new for the business. I was new into my career. As I said earlier, I had no responsibilities. So I could work 12 hours, 13 hours, whatever was needed of me to just, and I think there's something really special about working, which is not often the case for a lot of people, but like working at a business for a brand that you absolutely
Yeah.
love and you fully believe in. And there's also selfishly something wonderful about knowing what you're going to get paid at the end of each month and knowing how many
Yeah.
holiday days you've got. So I definitely don't think running your own business is the easy option. I think it is significantly harder from multiple different angles. But right now, my kids are 1 and 3. They're like, I honestly cannot comprehend how anyone went into an office 5 days a week and didn't see their kids in the morning, came home after bed and bath time. And so for the fact that I've ended up where I am in my career based on the age that my kids are, like for that, I'll always be like eternally grateful because I am mum first and foremost, and everything
Yeah.
else kind of somehow
Goes
slots
around
in
that.
around it. Yeah.
I saw something because it's funny you said about passion because I agree with that. So it said something around don't follow your dreams, find out what you're good at and what your talent is, and go after that. So even just listening to you over the last couple of minutes, Edge, is like you've got tons of tenacity. You knew where your skill set was, and you knew we could make a difference. Do you believe in that then? Do you think go after what you're good at? Not,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. I think
like, oh, I'd
so
love to
often,
be a blah. And it's
yeah.
like, oh, you know?
I think we're seeing it now, right? We're obviously in this AI boom, and I think so many people go, "Oh, I can make a load of money if I do something here." But if
Yeah.
you're not, if it naturally and intuitively doesn't come to you, like yes, every
Yeah.
person is using AI in some capacity to improve their lives inside outside of work. But when it comes down to like, why am I doing this? What is this business going to be about? If you genuinely believe in the problem that you're trying to solve, you can sell that to anyone. And it's all a
Yeah.
sales game. And I've seen, I've had friends that have tried to launch businesses because they've found this gap and they think it might be their $1 billion idea. And it never works out because they don't, that fire, that think I always say if there's something that you can't stop thinking about that is
Yeah.
keeping you up at night, that's the thing that you should try and do.
And that's me with this project right now. So it's very much, I love it and I love it. And I've got a vision for it. I think the world needs it. And it's not about money making, it's about something that lights my fire.
Mhm.
I love talking. I love instigate. I love stories. That's what I've been doing for 20 years in advertising, essentially. But I'm doing it my way. I think that's where, and again, that's where that's where, because otherwise, if you're not fully into it, it's like, oh, I've had enough of that now. It's too hard. I can't do it. On to the next thing.
Yeah.
But if there's that fire and there's that passion and there's that belief, and you don't have to know all the answers. I don't know where this is going to take me. I didn't know I was going to be next to the Gherkin in January, previewing the Unfiltered Female, what it stands for, and trying to get some insight. I never knew that was going to happen, but I was like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Do
again, it's
that.
because you're giving yourself that flex and that freedom to fail, to cock up, to
Yeah.
have to go, okay, cool. Well, we can pivot, we can change this because you've got the end goal in terms of like, you believe in
Yes.
it, you want to curate, bring these people together, but you're not going, oh, I need to earn this amount of money and this is what good looks like. And so you give yourself so much more autonomy and flexibility to make it work on your terms.
I think so. Going back to the transition then, so you're like, right, I'm going to go, I'm going to jump. I've got my plan B if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
What were you feeling truthfully in that? Was it more excitement than scared? Can you remember the jump, the transition?
Oh God, this is like a decade ago and I've had 2 kids. There were a lot of weird things is the honest answer. Although I technically had an investor, he didn't live in the UK and he was very much like hands off if you're making money, leave you to it. And I was profitable basically immediately. So he kind of just left me to it. But I remember having like I'm like Northern, so I've got like quite a bit of grit to me and you just kind of get on and, give things a good shot. But the P&L side was a bit that really took me some time to get my head around, and the costing of jobs in a space that was very new. So there wasn't anyone that I could just ring up and say, well, how do you do this? Can you help me out? So there was a lot of learning on the job. And I think that was very kind of like, shit, I could really screw this up here. And I could also lose people money. So that was slightly terrifying. But the thing I thought I would find hard and the things in the areas where I thought I would struggle was around building the pipeline.
Yeah.
And that actually ended up being the easiest bit because I really took for granted. It was hard, but I loved my 5 years at ASOS. And when I looked around my room at my wedding day, I was like, ASOS on every single table. And I genuinely made friends for life. We had a lot of fun. We learned a lot of stuff together. I really just felt like I was doing this job and it was fun and it was great. Whereas actually what I realized when I did my like first LinkedIn post 10, 11 years ago, being like, I've set up an influencer agency, like the amount of people that came to me on that day that knew me, that knew my mannerisms, knew what I had done for ASOS. And it became very easy to replicate. And actually it got harder as we grew to kind of then tap into people who'd never heard of me or never heard of the
Yeah.
agency. And so like I had Josh Wood, Instagram, Nike as my first 3 clients that we signed like within the first month. And then my first big client was like a massive retail group. And then you've got those logos to then basically sell off too. So again, it kind of comes back to the point you were making earlier, which is if I had sat down and thought through all of the things that would have been problems that would have kept me up at night, actually I was totally wrong on every single one of them.
Yeah. So I think it's just don't procrastinate. Just go, just jump and go and find your way. Because even just listening to that, you probably didn't have time to even think about how this could go wrong because you had those initial 3 clients and then and as you say, well, they just talk for themselves, don't they?
Yeah.
And generate the pipeline. So but I think it's really important because I think at the moment we're just seeing this, jump. Now's the time to get your dream role and do this and take the jump and you only live once. And it's like, I'm the most positive person in the world. Like some would say a little bit naive, but I just think there's got to be some realism in there as well. So although yes, you jumped, sounded like it was considered, you had a plan B, and you knew exactly the direction of travel. You had a North Star. You didn't figure it all out, but there was a North Star there. So I think there just has to be a little bit of realism around that, doesn't there?
Yeah. And I knew what I was good at. Like I had been doing influencer marketing for a very long time at ASOS. There were a lot of agencies that were doing social. There weren't a lot of agencies that were doing influencer, and there were barely any agencies that were saying we can do influencer and we can drive ROI. And so
Yeah,
again, that helped me, that I knew if I got in a room with people, I could talk about it and I knew I
yeah,
could drive results. And so all of the other bits and pieces, they were the bits I had to work around and kind of
sure.
learn on the job.
Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. And in terms of influencers, just jumping on, obviously, I won't edit this, but obviously that's changed in itself, hasn't it? The whole influencer thing. Like, even I'd probably say in the last 5 years, like, I'll be honest, I followed loads. And then, and now I'm like, they're not doing my mental health any good whatsoever. You don't, one, that they're like making me really depressed. And two, I just don't, there's just that genuine connection. Like, you don't buy that product. Like, no way do you buy that. It's so transactional. And I'm like switching off. Do you think that's happening on a mass scale with influencers?
Yeah. We're definitely, I think we're kind of, this is a bit of a dramatic way of putting it, but we're definitely seeing like the death of the lifestyle creator, and much
Mm.
more, it's giving this huge opportunity for very skilled people to rise through the ranks. So, Mia McGrath talking about finance, and if we were to say 5 years ago, oh, I'm going to follow an influencer talking about your finances, you'd be like, all right, that sounds boring. But again, it's the way that she's really telling it in a way that is so natural and organic, and hate this word, but authentic to her. Platforms have changed in the last 5 years. We weren't talking about a TikTok 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we kind of were, because we're at the start of the pandemic and everyone was like, do I not? But the brands that had a lot of heritage were not really jumping on TikTok, and now they're all very much attuned to TikTok. We're now going through like much more long form and a commitment again to YouTube. So like fashion, everything is in cycles. And I think, again, you have to think about your customer, your audience, the people that you're chatting to, their lifestyles change. Who I would have followed when I was
Yeah.
22, 23 at ASOS, going out, having a lovely time, are very
Yeah.
different now to, I dread a Monday and people say, how's your weekend? And I'm like, fuck, I went to soft play again, went to Wagamama's.
Yeah.
Yep, did
Yeah.
a lot of puzzles, because
Yeah.
unless you've got kids, you can't relate to that. And so again, the people that I have chosen to have children, having kids was always something that I wanted. It was always kind of something that I was gearing up to. And that isn't the case for everyone. That isn't, whether that is because they, are multiple reasons why
Sure.
people don't have children. I
Yeah.
won't go into all of the ins and outs of it. But again, like we see it on a personal level, the friendship groups, they check, the accounts that you follow. Some people choose not to have children. Some people can't have children. And naturally, that what they are then doing at a weekend is so drastically
Of
different.
course.
And so I think we go through these stages of like culling, and then what we need is very different. Like Mia's content around finance is really helpful for me right now. Whereas, again, me 23 going out every weekend
Right.
I would
No.
never have wanted to see anything around finance.
No. We're just going to spend it on our
Exactly.
what with a house
Exactly.
of CD dress, bandage dresses, and all of that
I am
gorgeous
very proud
stuff.
to say that I never wore a bandage
Oh,
dress.
sorry. I did. I
Could
did. I
not,
was there.
could not, never had the stomach for that.
I certainly don't. I certainly don't have it now. So just wrapping up. So like honest truths for any lady that's thinking and toying of, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump. I'm going to go. what are those realistic truths? Yes, it comes with a whole raft of positives and your own boss and all that sort of stuff. But in your own experience, Sedge, what are those really honest truths? If you are thinking about it, what you should consider
There's loads.
as a
So
woman in particular.
yeah, I think for women, stop thinking about it and just do it, because no one will back you the way that you will back yourself. And, we always talk about great bosses and lovely bosses and nice managers. It's a job. And so, yes, they might do your mid-year review and your end of year review, and you might get a bonus, you might do whatever. Like, if you do want to go out and go hard, you can make real money through running your own business. It's very hard to find people around you that will go, this is a really sensible idea, because I can't remember the statistics, but the majority of businesses in the UK fail in the first 3 years. And so again, you really have to go out there with the gut and the belief in your core that you are going to make this a success. And then again, you've got to think about, I always say I swap my 9 to 5 for a 24/7. There is
Yeah.
always something to do. There is always something else to think about. I go to bed and I literally just sit there going through everything that's happening the next day, the next week that I didn't get round to. And that was way easier for me, again, pre-kids, because I could just work. And I would stop and put my laptop down at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning if I needed to. I can't do that now, because the sacrifice is that my kids are going to wake me up in 5 minutes' time, that they're going to be up at 5, 6 a.m. in the morning, that I won't be able to be a good parent because I can't function. And so again, like, I ran a business that was 24/7, and now I run businesses where I've been able to kind of change and reprioritize what's important to me. That's, again, that balance is, again, a very loose and awful word, but you've got to work out what good looks like for you and what you're doing it for, and plan everything else around that.
Yeah. I think for me, I think it's being realistic, knowing that you can't be incredible to everybody at everything at all times. And
Yeah.
I have such a high pedestal, at highest expectations. Like, the boys have got to have the best of me at all times, but I've also got to be exceeding at work and achieving those ambitions and goals and having talks about the unfiltered female and all this. And it's like, you can't do that.
You can't.
So, what
Yeah.
are you choosing today? And I think it's balance and just being really in there going, what are we choosing? What are we choosing today? And there'll be sacrifices, so I don't do every school pickup. I don't. I can't,
Yeah. Same.
but the boys know that. And we make moments out of Monday mornings and Fridays because it's exciting. And mum takes us to Tesco. Dad doesn't do that.
Love that.
I'm good cop. And we make
I'm
those
so
jobs.
good cop. If you'd asked me pre-kids, I'd have told you that I would be bad cop. And I am
Ooh.
so soft with my kids. It is like, I'm shocked at myself.
What has happened to me?
Yeah,
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 they still
exactly.
they've just got that. They know exactly what they're doing, and I just think it's fantastic. Just as a side note, what a role model they've got
Oh,
in a
thank
mama like
you.
you. It's incredible. So, so lucky. So no, that's all great. And just whilst we're talking about bold truths and being completely honest, because this is what we're about, and we need to be having more conversations, not to, dampen anyone's spirits, or it's just about a little bit of realism going on, and those things that people are often shy away from.
Mhm.
I think you're quite confident in talking about three particular things, especially again around women, because there is a bias, whether we like it or not. We don't do these enough. Talking about money comfortably. So, and that's again specifically a bias towards women. What are your thoughts around? Because I know you've just done a piece of content about it, haven't you? So I thought I'll pick
Yeah.
a brain.
I just think, I mean, there's so much to unpick here. And I am absolutely not a pin-up for this, because it is by me outwardly going out there, I am also trying to be better. But I just think as women, we shy away so much about talking about money, and
Mhm.
we undersell ourselves, we undercharge, we do all of the like, oh, maybe. And actually, why are we doing that? And so I was very much had drummed into me from my dad that from a pricing perspective, you can always go down, but you can never go up. And
Right.
so again, when I was running the agency and I was trying to make sure that we were being paid fairly for the work that we were doing and we were delivering, I would always be like, well, actually, if we're going to over deliver, or we're going to go above and beyond, which we should be if you are running a
Yeah.
service led business, are we covering ourselves? And are we putting in fat here to be able to negotiate? And as the industry changed, those negotiations became so much harder. And so
Sure.
I would say to any woman, like, get yourself negotiation training. That helps when you've got
Yeah.
toddlers and you're trying to, like, have a shoe thrown at you or a Sky Paw
Yeah.
Patrol character, as it was for me this weekend, and get people out
Yeah.
the door on time, but is a fundamental skill that you need in business. And you need to be so confident in the numbers. And I've started to have, like, I've got obviously friends that run businesses, and and like one in particular, I was with her last week and we're like, right, let's just talk about what we want to achieve this year. And let's be able to just, whether it's over a glass of wine or whether it's, WhatsApp back and forth, having that level of accountability to be really open. I've had a shit month. I've had an unbelievable month. This is what worked for me. I needed to increase my prices. And this is how I did it, that it wasn't a question mark. It was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to update my prices. And this is why I really know my value. And
Mhm.
again, it's something that I had to learn the hard way, because when you were running the business and people would do it the other way, oh, I've got a tenner to spend. Can you make that work? And you go, oh, that's a good brand. Yeah. Okay, maybe. And then
Yeah.
I got to this point when I had the business where we've been trading for about 5 years, and the way we serviced a Nike and LVMH group was different to how we were servicing other clients. And I was like, okay, we actually need to do a job of, like, what is our ideal customer profile? Like, who do we work and operate best for? Because then you can make sure that your pricing model works, that you've got minimum spends, that you can get off those phone calls where they don't have enough and they're trying to just steal information out of you. And yeah, it is a fundamental life skill to be able to negotiate and to be able to know your worth.
Yeah. And I think it's just having, and I think the more you do it, it's like it's flexing a muscle, isn't it? The more you do it, the more it just becomes, and that's a really good shout as well about you can always go down, you can never go up. Because I'm in service at the minute and I'm experiencing all of that. Never ever has it been harder and all businesses and organizations are feeling the squeeze,
Of
aren't they?
course.
But again, without compromising any quality, which I would never do, you're always going to over deliver. You're always going to have that proactivity applied. But it's, as you say, it's making sure that is the fat in there to cover it. But then the negotiation is a really good shout.
Yeah, I used to pay for negotiation training for my team every single year. And it was,
Really?
I think it was like 2, 3 grand to do negotiation training,
Mhm.
and it paid for itself within like the
Yeah.
first month. And again, influencer marketing, predominantly female team, predominantly female business, but just giving them the toolkit to
Yeah.
have that confidence to understand what it was that they were selling and why the worth was there was, yeah, unbelievable.
Secondly, positive boundaries this is another thing that we often, and probably I'd say as mothers as well, making mothers, importance of boundaries and saying no. I believe that you can be super friendly, super kind in business, but I'd probably say now more than ever, especially, if you've got children, having boundaries and saying no is absolutely okay to do. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think early on in your career, and again, I'm 37, so generationally, this might have changed, but you have to say yes to everything. And I managed to
Yeah,
build my career by just saying yes. And it would be like, do you think you
yeah,
should sit in this meeting? Yeah. Do you want to come here? Yeah. Pub? Yeah. And I have an amazing network. I have amazing friends from just like finding the timing, doing stuff, and just learning. And I was always very much a sponge, and like, I don't have the time to do it anymore. Like, if you were to see my tabs that are open right now, it's because I'm very new into being on YouTube. So what do I want to do? I want to be able to watch as many other people's content, to pick up bits, what's working, what's not, where do I switch off? Can't watch them. They've been up
yeah,
there for about 3, 4 months because the sacrifice is I put my kids to bed, or I pick them up from nursery, or I sit there and watch a 20, 30 minute YouTube video. And,
yeah.
and so I have to be so watertight on what I say yes to and what I say no to. And that subsequently means that I say no to most things.
Yeah. Oh, wow, I feel really, really, really special now. I'm like, just
No,
said yes.
of course. But again, like this, the reason for saying yes to this is like, if I always say with YouTube, like I would, of all of the things I've ever done in my career, I was like, I'm not sure this is the right thing to do, because I would love to disappear, is the honest answer, and not be on any social other than a few cute pictures of my kids. But the world that we live in very much requires you to be present and to be there. And I try not to shout the loudest, but very much like talk from experience. Like, I did not realize how much my life was going to change when I had children. If you had asked me when I was pregnant, literally up to, being in the labor ward, I thought I was going back to work the next day. Didn't realize I'd be in hospital for the best part of a few days to start with. So like, all of a sudden, like, the pivot and the change for me was so huge. And that's the thing with YouTube, is like, when you really drill down into content on YouTube for women to give them the confidence to have a business, to grow a business, to scale a business, there isn't a lot of it.
Mhm.
And then when you make it attainable, because I don't have stylists, I do have someone who comes into my house twice a week and cleans, and she is exceptional and wonderful, and I trust her with my life, and I can't iron for shit, and I've never been able to. So I
That's
am
one of your life Sedge.
but I'm happy to delegate. But
Yeah.
again, I don't have a childminder. They do go to nanny. I don't have a chef. I don't So a lot of the women that you look up to who are running businesses, they talk about, I've got 4 chefs, I've got 2 stylists, I've got this, and they are unbelievable, absolute fat powerhouses. But it's taken a lot to get there.
Yeah.
And so again, you've got to understand there's a hell of a lot of graft that goes into it. So when I'm constantly pontificating of like, why did I do YouTube? This is really hard. This is a load of hours. Why have I given this hour? It's because if one person listens to this and they have the
Yeah.
confidence to go out alone and to back themselves, I've done what I need to do.
Yeah. I love that. And that one person, you're doing it right now.
Good job done.
Like, I want to be, when I grow up, I want to be like Sedge. And then lastly, which I love and which I'm getting used to a lot more now, because I used to be so fearful. And again, it's that I was trying so much to always operate and be right. And especially as I got promoted again and again, I was like, I've got to have all the answers. I can't look to even be a little bit wobbly. And the amount of hours I'd prepare and procrastinate and make sure everything's perfect. And the more we're seeing now is this: get uncomfortable with making mistakes. In fact, the more mistakes that you're making, it shows that willingness to learn, that willingness to grow. And, so get comfortable with that. And I know that from, again, looking at, and engaging with your content, that you're the same school of thought as well.
Yeah, yeah. Again, running the business, I was very much of, if everything is going to plan, we're not doing enough. And it's great to have the results and it's great for things to be, but what are we doing? You learn so much more when things don't go to plan than when thing
Yeah,
is running. And so again, push yourself out your comfort zone, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is how we can be bigger, how we can do better, how we can. And you talk a lot around doing things where you feel uncomfortable. Like the first time I was ever doing a keynote was practically
uh-huh.
vomiting before I got on. And now I almost miss the adrenaline rush. So I'm constantly
Yeah,
like, well, what is that thing that I need to do next where I do feel like I shouldn't be there, that I haven't earned
yeah,
my spots and my stripes yet. But that is again from a career perspective or in general in life, like the more you can learn, the more you can give things a go, the more mistakes you can make, the stronger that you will be.
yeah. I think that's probably one of my superpowers is curiosity. And I've said that for years. Like, I must annoy the shit out of people. Like, just tell me why we're doing it that way. Well, why wouldn't you do it this way? Okay, cool. I understand that. Or I saw this the other day, and I'm constantly asking questions even now. And again, I can't ask questions. A group account director can't ask
Ask
questions without
questions all
loads.
day, everywhere,
Yeah, that
everywhere.
doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. I don't understand that word. What does that word mean? Like, I have no problems I don't know what that word means. What does that mean? You
Yeah. Yeah.
Burnley's in the because I'm from Burnley and they blame, "Oh, the Burnley's in the room." I'm like, "Hey." So, it's all banter, but the point is, again, it's getting comfortable with making mistakes, but again, asking questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like, it shows that we're learning and everyone's out to help. Like,
100%.
so this year, Sedge, I'm all about just, being brave, putting the big knickers on. And, I did a talk in London. I was invited to come down and preview the Unfiltered Female, the concept, what we're trying to do, spotlight those women that are really making change in business without the huge investments, without the celebrity status, without the huge following, all of that good stuff that you were saying. And I was shitting it. But people don't want you to lose. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
I did it, the feedback, I mean, I'm sure they just have been like, "Oh, that was great. That was great." It could have been shit, but they were like, they were the love and the support and the guidance. Like, you did so well. I was last on as well, so that slot is never easy
Yeah.
because
No.
But all of this lovely feedback, and it's just like people want you to win. People are there to help, support, guide. So don't be afraid. Don't be afraid with that as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's all, especially women. We
Yeah.
just want to help each other, don't we?
It's like sport though, right? So like any professional athlete will replay because they're
Yeah,
learning, what did I do right? How can I improve? How, if I was to do that next time, what would I do? And really taking that time to, again, push yourself out of your comfort zone, do things that make you feel uncomfortable, but then really analyze, well, how can I make it better next time? What
yeah,
can I do more? How can I visualize what the next step is? And it's such an important part, again, of that development piece.
yeah. I love that. It's pausing and going, what worked, what didn't, what can I experiment with? It's having that moment to go on what happens next, because
Yeah,
otherwise maybe I'll just be a bit samey and nothing will ever move on. So it's just being a little bit mindful and tuned in into that in order to get onto the next step.
exactly.
So I want to talk about this. Is going to excite me, and I'm just conscious of time. So I really want to talk about this because we're both really quite vocal around mothers in careers. It's not a bold statement to say we're operating essentially in a system that is not designed for us to win. That is
Amen.
fact.
Yeah.
That's fact. Work like you don't have kids, parent like you don't have career. I will try not to get upset about this, but it's quite emotional. But I fell victim to it. I fell victim to it, and I'll never be able to get that time back with the
Mhm.
boys. But I made wrong decisions when they were very young. I prioritized work because I felt I had to.
Of
I felt
course.
I had to overcompensate, Sedge. I felt I had to come back and be like, I'm still Superwoman. I can still, yeah, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. And I missed bedtimes. There were an instance, Sedge, where I had the dreaded nursery call. It comes up,
Yeah.
nursery, like, not now.
Yeah.
And like, he's not very well. Have you given Calpol? Have you taken his jumper off? Yeah, we've done all of that. You're gonna have to come and get him. And I was right knee deep into something, but I chose to stay. I chose to stay, and I rocked up at nursery 3 hours later, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. Traffic was horrendous, and da 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 da. And I made the wrong decision. At that point, I should have been like, I'm
He
coming
needed
right
you.
now. He needed me, and I chose wrong. I go back to that in the hope that I made mistakes. I've been there, I've done it, I made the wrong decision. Would I do it? We talk about learnings. Would I do that ever again? Absolutely not. And listen, this wasn't the business going, you have to stay.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
they were horrified. They were horrified. They were like, why on earth did you choose to stay? You could have given it to me. We could have sorted something out. And but I fell victim to the system.
Yep.
I was that woman, to thinking I had to do it all. So, do you relate to that a little bit? Am I just that really bad
Oh
career
God,
op-
no, you're not.
woman
No. How old
that
were
you
you when
know?
you had your first?
So I was 31
Yeah, so
when
I
I
was
yeah.
32 or 3. I think I think I was 33. But similar thing, like I really knew that when I had kids, that I wanted to be able to be there. But really naively, I just assumed that they slotted into your life, not the other way around. And like essentially my kids, 1 and 3, they run the house. To your
Mm,
point, when they've got a temperature and you need to go and pick them up from nursery, it's not just that immediacy of like the next 2-3 hours. That's the next 48
mm,
hours because they can't go into
yeah,
nursery for 2 days. And naturally, as women, it tends to be us that are the ones that then don't go to work or have to take holiday to be able to look after them. And again, when I look back at how I ran my team and just without even realizing things I said to women who'd had kids, and I've rung some of them and I've apologized and been like, God, I really thought because you had flexi working or because you were predominantly remote, but I still didn't understand all of these things because you cannot understand it until you're in it. And I am fortunate and forever grateful that my return to work was so savage because it was my business. And
yeah,
I was essentially the person that put all of the pressure on me to get back to work immediately. So I had interviewed a nanny. And again, I appreciate I'm coming from an unbelievably huge place of privilege because I could afford to have a nanny. But I interviewed her and I was like, right, so when she's like 8 weeks old, you can start 5 days a week. I'll be out in the office. And then when my daughter arrived, I was like, can't do this. So I pushed her back to 4 months and I sobbed uncontrollably on the way to work. And it's an hour's commute. And I always think now, like, I wonder on the Northern Line to Old Street, what people thought had happened to me that morning. Because I was just all I could think of was what the fuck am I doing and who am I doing this for? Because I don't
mm,
need to go and build my career. I've done enough and I've worked my bollocks off. And so instead, I'm paying someone to do the job that I really want to do and the job that I think I'm best at. And then that totally changed my perception and the way that I was in the office. Because all of a sudden I wanted to get out as quickly as I possibly could. I was also breastfeeding. So by the time I got to the office, didn't realize that these
yeah,
poor, 21,
yeah,
22 year
same.
olds were just seeing milk all over my shirt. So I thought I'd got my nice postpartum outfit that would have been hideous because I didn't fit in anything. And then I was leaking everywhere too. And I was an emotional wreck. And the next few weeks were honestly a bit of a blur, a bit of a roller coaster. And I was like, no, like I've done what I need to do here to now work out what my pivot is and how I really kind of rewrite my own rule book so that when my kid does get a call from nursery, I can be there. And
Yeah,
it's not, oh, well, actually, I'm in Shoreditch and it's an hour away and I've got two really important meetings. And I think, again, when you run businesses, when you're the founder of the business, male or female, you get so swept up in your importance. My diary
yeah,
is so important. I've got all of these big meetings happening. And now I look at my diary and I'm like, I can fucking cancel everything.
yeah. I
Like
know.
that is what's important. But you have to, I think, go through the extreme of it to then, yeah, be able to reassess.
100%. Like, I would never do that now, but it's why I talk about diaries. So, my diary for Wednesday in particular is strategy meeting or brand positioning workshop. And then underneath, we've got World Book Day because that's equally as important.
Is that
Okay.
Wednesday?
Well, it's Thursday, but ours is Wednesday.
Okay, I was going to
And
say,
you
because I
know
was sending
what?
my kids on Thursday.
No, keep Thursday. I am that mum. But I've got this
Oh, you're going to
lovely
shame me now and you do hand arts and crafts and make their
No, no.
outfits.
No,
Okay,
no, no,
fine.
no, we don't do that. We
Okay.
don't do that. It's literally who's recycling. So we've got all the cousins. What have you got? Cat in the Hat? That'll do.
I've always
And
loved that book.
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not being an arts and crafts mum. I'm okay with that because my time's better spent elsewhere, and the boys are not gonna worry. They're not even that arsed probably.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's picking and choosing, where my time is. But I am that mum. I am. Do you remember it's PGA day today? And that's okay. I'll own it. It's fine. I forget everything. I forget when it's forest school day. But we always get there, and the boys don't think of me any less.
Yeah, of
You know,
course.
I think it's just we put so much pressure on ourselves to be this perfect, and it's just not true, and I have this really open, with the boys, and they see me working really hard and why I have to work late sometimes or I have to go to Europe sometimes, and they just totally get it. But it's all about sacrifices and compromises, but ultimately we go on really nice holidays and we spend amazing time together and whatever. Interestingly, we talk about burnout and stuff. Only this morning, I was like, you've become a bit more vigilant on the school run because I do Monday mornings as well. And mothers just look tired, Sedge. They just look tired. Like, I was just overhearing like conversations. You had one woman pushing the pram. You had the 4-year-old she was carrying, and she's like, "I'm gonna have to drop you now because I'm gonna have to push the pram." And I know this other conversation, and she's snapping at her daughter, like, "Get out of the way, get out of the way!" Like, and I'm just listening to all these conversations, and I'm like, we are tired.
Mhm.
Why? What can we do to help ourselves? Because this is just so, and we're rushing all the time. So I'll do 3 o'clock pickup. I'll be like, come on, come on, come on. But all they want to see is me.
Yeah,
All they want to see is me and tell me about their really, really important day. And I'm like, I've got a meeting at 3:30. You're going to have to hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And it's like, is this the way we just have to accept things? I don't know. I don't know.
I do crazy things. Like on a Sunday, I plan both of their outfits for the week. I lie them downstairs. They are ready to go because, again, every second counts. But I
Sure,
was like wetting myself looking at like, we all just survive. Any mum I
sure.
speak to is surviving. Like,
Yeah.
did a podcast recently and I got glam beforehand and I went to pick up and one of the mums was like, fucking hell, did not
Who are you?
recognize you. And I was like, yeah, cheers, cheers. Because
Cheers.
you're not complimenting me that I look good today. You're basically telling me that every single day I look like death warmed up. And so again, it's like, I do think the big thing is like, we have to be kinder to ourselves. And I think that's my bit
Yeah.
when I was talking about
Nice.
YouTube earlier is being realistic. So
Yeah.
I don't know if she still does it, but Eva Shen used to talk about very openly on her Instagram that what was once every 2 weeks, I think it was, she went and stayed in a bougie hotel because she needed sleep. That is not realistic for
Yeah.
99.9% of mums. But actually finding time to just like go for a walk with your AirPods on for 30 minutes, that's your
Love
time.
that.
Or, we went away this weekend and I did book myself in for a massage. My husband
Yeah.
hated me for that hour, but he survived it and he got through it.
Yes.
And so I used to go to an osteopath once every 2 weeks. I would do it in working hours. I now go once every 2 months. But it's
Yeah.
still that like selfish time, which isn't the word I should use, but it is the thing that just gives me a bit of a like, I'm here and this is for
Yeah.
me.
Nice.
And then you jump straight back into the carnage after it.
Don't you? Like literally, I had a lovely break in February, and I note February is always a good time to go away.
Yes, agree.
And yeah, and you come back and like crash land into reality, like, oh my God, like days and meetings and car service, and you're like, oh my God. But I think your point is just be kinder kinder to ourselves, I think you will miss things, you will forget things, but that's okay. That's okay. Do you think you've got that in this chapter you're in right now? Do you think you've got that balance? Do you feel that things are okay?
Yeah, I feel I actually just went through a bit of a baptism of fire in my own head. So with my first, she was 3 days a week at nursery and then went up to 4 days a week when
Yeah.
she was two. And my first was 3 days a week. And the idea was wait till she's two and then she'll go up to 4 days a week. And I was so overwhelmed. I've been working every single evening and this glamorization of like a
Yeah.
portfolio career. I can work on my time and I can do bits whenever. I was like, if I dared to think about having a social life, my entire week would be off because I need that
Yeah.
evening just to keep up on to work and to
Yeah.
work. But then on a Monday and a Friday, I was very much like, no, Monday is for Orly, Friday is for both of the girls. And I was like, actually, the thing I need to change here is that she needs to go into nursery on a Monday. And it really, really took me some time to get my head around because I felt guilty that Mari had had 3 days for longer. But then I was like, well, hold on. I went back to work immediately with Mari.
Yeah.
And I was still in the office and back and forth. And we had a nanny until she was one and started nursery. With Orly, I took a year off. So I was like,
Yeah.
again, everything is different with every single child. And every single child is different. Like Mari did not sleep, Orly did sleep.
Yeah.
I breastfed Mari, I
Yeah.
couldn't breastfeed Orly. It's like every kind of
Yeah.
piece of things are always different. And so to answer the question of like right now, I've got it as good as I think I could possibly get it. I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, but that's part and parcel of it.
I
But the
think so.
main important thing for me is I have the girls on a Friday. Everyone I work with knows you can message me. I probably won't get back to you until the Monday. And then the weekend is like our family time. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. It's exhausting,
Yeah.
but it's fun.
And I think that's brilliant. I think it's having that discipline, isn't it? Having that discipline to go, but unless it's really, really important, please don't disturb me. I've give 4 days full on. Let me have this moment. And I was very much the same. I mean, you know, in my like I did have the Fridays off, but I'm like, you can still contact in the early days. I was like, but I'm still on, you can still just message me. And I'm just like,
That was
no,
me maternity first time. I was doing calls whilst having contractions. And I was like, well, I can just get
well,
them out, get all the calls through. It'll be easier the other side. But
why
once
did
you
you feel in that
free,
moment you had to do that? Because you felt even in giving contractions, you were like, "Yeah, just still call me."
yeah,
Where does
I
that
couldn't,
come
I
from, do you
couldn't,
think?
I couldn't disassociate my entire
Right.
identity being the business.
Yeah,
And so I really created and cultivated a bad habit, which was like, I'm just around. I'm here if you need me. A job will always be there in some capacity, some way
I think
or
so.
form.
I
And
think
so if you need to take a step back to take a step forward, then give yourself that flex.
I think we've just answered sort of the last bit that we in terms of redefining success. I recently saw something that really resonated with me personally in terms of what success looks like for me. Very much, and it differs, with our cycles of life. In 20s, it was the job title, it was the
Yeah.
recognition, it was the badge of honor for doing long days. I used to do midnight and sending emails. It's like, look how dedicated I am. I thought the big house, the fancy car, all of that fancy destinations was what I was aiming for. In actual fact, having children, a little bit older, a little bit wiser, a little bit uglier, has, outlined to me that that's not success. Success is doing what we're doing. Monday morning pickups where we can, Fridays totally tuned off from work. That's the real measure of success, I think. Would you agree?
Yeah. Mine is now just getting through the week, first and foremost, but
Be
keeping my
honest, we
Fridays.
survived.
Exactly. Did I survive? Yes or no? Getting my bottle of wine open. But no, for me, it's very much about my Fridays are sacred, keeping my Fridays. If I can plan everything else around keeping those Fridays free, my week has been a success. And the same thing goes for like weekends. Like there's a job coming up that's a weekend and I'm already harboring unbelievable amounts of resentment for it because there's no money, there's
Yeah.
no ticket size of not being around and being present at this stage when my kids want me, when my kids need me. And so the more, again, that I can say no to, and the more that I can prioritize doing the stuff that me and my family want us to be doing, that for me is success and everything else just kind of falls down the waistline.
Yeah, and I think that is brilliant, and I just think the guilt that you probably get with that, you probably will get guilt, but that's okay. It doesn't make it a wrong decision. That mum guilt is just innate.
It's there.
That's who we are.
Yeah.
It's there, never go away, and I'm more in tune with that now. And obviously, Jude's now 6, and I'm just like totally my mindset, as I said, a little bit older, a little bit wiser through those learnings. I'm like, this is where I'm needed. But I can still do what my passion is as well. I can
Yeah,
still
you're doing it, right?
talk. I can still do it. We're still doing it. It's just we're not superhuman. I was like, oh, she's just a dream. It was we're not superhuman. We're just about recalibration. So again, just not taking on the world like what's in front of me and what's priority.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
The key takeaways, I think, for me and from this conversation is just a little bit realism in terms of if you are starting a business and female, don't be starry eyed. It's graft, it's really hard. You need grit, Devon. It's 24/7, not 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And if you're
Yeah.
willing to do that and find passion, you're in it for the long haul. And don't follow your talent, not your dreams. Find out what you're good at and do that.
100%.
Yeah, let's get comfortable talking about money. Let's get comfortable having boundaries. Let's get comfortable making mistakes and asking questions. And yeah, and I think the takeaway around the working mothers is it's really fucking hard.
Yeah, exactly. That's
We're
it.
all feeling it
Yeah.
and we're all just supporting each other. Thank you so,
No,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much,
No,
Sedge.
of course.
You're amazing.
All right. Well, I'll speak to you soon. Hope to see you at one of the events.
Thank you. Bye,
Bye. Bye.
Sedge.
Bye.
Take care.